Mercy Productions would like to remind listeners that all of the characters in the Laura Pendlebury adventures are entirely fictitious and bear no resemblance to persons living or dead, especially Mr. Gavin Grimshaw of Bodkin Lane, Naby, who, as his legal team would like us to reiterate, has never had sex with a pig in his life and was nowhere near the Eagland Hill rest home for the mentally infirm on the day that Mrs. Broadchurch was raped.
It is Polly Judith Jenkins, the corpulent female yeti of Oldie Fleetwood. Where exactly have you been?
Just down to Sainsbury's for a Terry's chocolate orange, which now that I've advertised it for free, I'm hoping they'll send me a crate of and a roast chicken for the cats.
Don't give me that. Polly Jenkins investigates. There's no point in denying it. I accidentally dematerialised halfway through the episode. You with a spin-off series? Feline's got more chances of a successful pilot than you have, and he's just a biscuit in on wheels.
Ruth, is that thing still here? Hand me a mallet. Now, where were we? Oh, yes. I was young, Laura. I was naive. I needed the money because, let's face it, being your assistant would be in contravention of the Minimum Wage Act if you didn't keep travelling backwards through time to places in history where the act itself doesn't apply. I sought escape in my own adventures, but all I got was an SDD from Expector Balustrade and bow legs for a fortnight courtesy of Constable Makepeace and a sheep in a basque. But let's put this failed endeavour behind us and move forwards. What about this plan of yours to get us out of the surreal nightmare in which we're trapped?
Unfortunately, Polly, you've fanned about with your amateur dramatics so much, my cunning plan will have to wait until after the titles.
Polly Jenkins investigates by Brad Hughes, episode 2.
Oh, no, you don't. This is the Laura Pendlebury Adventures. Nothing to do with Polly Gerbil-Cheeks Jenkins in vitro menstruating. Give me that script. Where's my crayon?
Get the microphone to get published. You're getting split in one.
Right, read it again. This time use your proper voice. You sound like your gonads are a couple of cannonballs.
The Laura Pendlebury Adventures, episode 5.
Episode 4? There's no way we're classifying that Polly Speckle and Mrs. Wide-Arse debacle as the Laura Pendlebury Adventures.
The Laura Pendlebury Adventures, episode 4.
And don't forget it.
The story so far. Laura Pendlebury and Polly Jenkins dabbled briefly with lesbianism during the early 1980s, which resulted in one black eye, 2 broken ribs, and the unexplained disappearance of a crate of rubber chickens from the joke shop behind Blackpool Central Station. Opting for safer platonic relationships instead, they took to travelling time and space in a mouldy old telephone box known as the Twatter. Unfortunately, after inadvertently killing their previous selves, the resultant temporal paradox tore the fabric of the universe apart, a problem compounded when Laura committed the ultimate science fiction sin and landed the Twatter on her great-great-grandfather's head. The universe understandably collapsed beneath the pressure, tearing down the walls of reality to reveal the true nature of everything. Chaos in its raw form. Trapped in a surreal nightmare, Laura formulated a plan of escape, but was cut short before she could reveal it by the previous episode's end credits. Swivel on that convoluted mess, Mr. Moffat.
My plan is simple, Polly. We need to wake up, or more precisely, go to sleep, or possibly die.
Or just find something else to do on a Saturday night other than record this rubbish. I don't suppose you could explain that again for the listener's benefit, and by listener, I'm talking singular here.
This nightmare, in which we're currently stranded, was the result of our own false but surprisingly convincing reality collapsing in on itself. In effect, we awoke from a self-deceiving dream. In order to re-establish said dream, stroke reality, we now have to go back to sleep.
And join our last remaining listener. Do you reckon anybody's actually following this? How do you mean to accomplish this reversal of our consciousness?
By hitting you round the head with this frying pan. Don't struggle. It's for your own good, Polly, and for the benefit of our original universe, of course.
I'm not sure that this is such a claim.
I'm Laura Pendlebury, and this is my assistant.
Don't worry, Polly Jenkins. Tough piece of street. I'm Polly Jenkins.
What was that? And so, Polly Jenkins' consciousness tumbled unconvincingly through the multicoloured kaleidoscope of her id, thus combining both Jungian and Freudian labels into one suitably incoherent mess. Unfortunately, hers was very deep id, so while we wait for her to land, is a specially composed piece of narration written for the Laura Pendlebury Adventures by Anthony Briscoe, and read for us this afternoon by Australia's foremost cultural attaché, Lord Terence Arbuckle Sedgwick of East Strathclyde, in what he believes to be a Fleetwood accent.
Time largely exists in the past, which is odd, as the past is nothing but a product of time. The
the past is something we can all enjoy. In fact, you don't have a choice. As of right now, you have experienced it. In fact, by the end of this line, it is in the past. Gone, finished, not new. Even if you do listen to it or reread it, do whatever you like. It doesn't matter, because it happened. It is now the past. What about the present and the future? I hope you don't ask. Well, the present is quickly becoming the past, and the future is just the past waiting to happen. This is all well and good. But how does it affect you? The answer is simple. You should know, because it is now the past, and you should be able to learn from it. I thank you.
Sounds like Polly has hit rock bottom, as indeed has Terry Sedgwick's acting career. Back to the plot.
Why are the horrible fat bulking areas fluttering around my head? Where am I?
Outside the train station on the Brecon Pelmler File during the Victorian period. It would appear that our surreal and somewhat confusing descent into reality was unexpectedly curtailed about halfway through.
How come you're here, Laura? You couldn't possibly have hit yourself round your own head with a frying pan.
Of course not. I just took sleeping tablets. I'm not an idiot.
Shut up, you pancreas, overinflated, albino-frog-like abomination of genetically mutated womanhood. It was me what prevented the completion of your slumberous fall. Me, the most malevolent force in history.
Sounds like somebody pigging about with a voice modulator.
It's coming from that Crumpler Sainsbury's box in the gutter.
Ignore that box. It's just an automatic shipment that fell off the back of a rickety car. It's got nothing to do with you two totally bloodworms. Do not disobey me, weird sisters. Close those box traps right now.
Look! It's an egg carton with wheels, an antenna, and metal eyes, and a very small motor. Itchy, 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 woo!
Bagger, and hand me, you pregnant space opera. I am Kid 10, the illegitimate offspring of the late feline, the original kitten of evil. You, Polly, Hyacinth, Blobbin Jenkins, vile pink haggard, slaughtered my mother, stroke father, stroke sister, stroke biscuit tin, if you're only starting you. An expensive mallet from Texas Health Store. For that, will perish horribly.
Kitten? Presumably so called because you were constructed from a git. Not a very good one at that. The sort that will put the worst blue piece of effort to shame, and had 9 predecessors.
No. The people who created me just have the same standard sense of humour as the poets who wrote Doctor Who back in the 70s. Make your peace with whatever unholy, warty, bad taste goddess you believe in. You revolting, sweaty man with blubber, prepare to suffer.
That tickle! It was a naughty but adorable giddy leg.
Be down, you disgusting. Size 46, bald bag.
He squealed off towards the signal box. I wonder if the writer will bring him back later in the episode for a dramatic cliffhanger climax.
Probably not.
There are corners of the universe where the fragile seams separating reality from nightmares have worn thinner than Anthony Worrell Thompson's underpants. In such unpleasant hinterlands, any additional wear and tear often creates an embarrassing hole large enough to continue the metaphor for one dimension to focus inquisitive hemorrhoids into the next, or, in the case of the blue and white swirling vortex recently opened by Polly Jenkins' descent into her own reality, not so much piles as Pepperpots.
What is that wibbly-wobbly, curly-whirly thing, Mrs. Kath, Gregson, Pepperpot? It's all 60s psychedelic and resembles the great now-beast bum after consuming some rancid sprout.
I think it's a wormhole between realities, Mr. Davy Gregson, Pepperpot. And what were you doing studying the great now-beast backside? You haven't been pretending to be a proctologist again, have you? There's already a restraining order on you, courtesy of Nick Clegg, for trying to get a gander in his mouth.
I've explained about that already, Mrs. Kath, Gregson, Pepperpot. I was intrigued from an amateur medical point of view. I'd never seen a species with 2 anuses before. Stop hitting me with your brolly. You might damage my eyeball stalk. Last time it took me weeks to get it re-straightened by that quick-fit mechanic. I spent ages having to watch my own mutant through my metal neck brace.
Then you stop pushing me, Mr. Davy Gregson, Pepperpot. I'm getting dangerously close to the edge. If you're not careful, I might accidentally do.
Oops.
A according to the statistics, only 1 in every 8 of those purporting to have listened to these audio adventures actually has. Of them, an even smaller number have bothered to listen from beginning to end. What most people don't realise is that YouTube's analytics provide a graph revealing that a lot of our so-called listeners are just tuning in for the first and the last 5 seconds, presumably so that they can lie more convincingly in the comments boxes by incorporating the odd soundbite into their subterfuge. Here's the plan. If you're hearing this, then you've obviously been very well behaved and listened all the way through, in which case please click the like button below this video. Those who do will not wake up next week to discover a brown paper bag set fire on their doorstep with a surprisingly sticky gift hidden inside.
Right, Polly, time to continue. If we hang around Polton Station for much longer, we'll either start to develop 3 extra chins or lose the ones we've already got. Good job I remembered my frying pan.
Haven't you got any more sleeping tablets?
Afraid not. There's only 2 left in the packet and I need 10. Oh, it turns out I had another box in the band on my hat. Hold on. What's that coming out of the vortex above my head?
Get off me, Mr. David Gregson Pepperpot. You've got your plunger stuck up my exhaust. I've warned you before about that.
Look, Mrs. Kath, Gregson Pepperpot, isn't that Laura Pendlebury, the sworn enemy of the Daleks?
Pepperpots?
That's what I said, sworn enemy of the Pepperpots. You will accompany us back to Stephen Hawking, our local butcher, and face charges of vandalising the universe, just as soon as I can work out how to roll myself upright.
Carl Jung, one of the founding fathers of psychoanalysis, famously said, "In all of chaos there is a cosmos, and in all disorder a secret order." To be honest, I haven't got a clue what he was talking about. He was probably off his head on morphine at the time. However, he also described the progress of the individual's identity between the conscious and unconscious regions of perception as resembling a passage through a very large and very deep well. Polly Jenkins, right at the moment, would perhaps have seen it more as a vertical badger's burrow, lined with tree roots and glass-fronted cabinets, cluttered with curiosities and books with torn spines that had unpleasant pen and ink drawings on their covers.
Actually, I describe it more as a rabbit hole, but I'm not entirely sure how the copyright stands on the works of Lewis Carroll. What sort of books these are? Harold Robbins. I was wrong, it's not a rabbit hole. I've been flushed down the bog. It's like poaching from above. It looks like a whale accompanied by a bowl of petunias.
Well, I suppose I'd better start finding names for things. Let's call it a tail. Yeah, tail. And hey, what's this rolling sound? Whooshing past us like something got called Murray.
Well, there you go. At least next time somebody accuses of being a Douglas Adams rip-off, they won't just be being cliché. Hey up, here comes the grand Goodnight Vienna.
Evil, especially in the case of the Pepperpots, the most diminutive power-crazed mutant robot hybrids in the universe, is difficult to define. The concept is generated by individual perspective, and is mostly a hypocritical one. For example, Star Wars fans who cheered the rebel forces through the increasingly anally retentive films were quick to side with the American Imperial forces when it came to the real-life war against terror. As Margaret Thatcher once explained,
"I am in politics because of the conflict between good and evil, and I believe that in the end good will triumph."
She was correct. It did, because now the old bag's finally dead. As far as the Pepperpots go, it's debatable as to whether they're evil in the wider sense of the word, or just rather crap.
This is the Pepperpot Old Bailey, so called because we all get drunk here at Christmas. Climb into the dock, you will define 40 feet my wall, or I'll electrocute the back of your knee with my sizzling arm prod.
It's not your arm that bothers me, it's the height of your eye stalk. That's more upsetting.
What is it with you and bumholes, Mr. David Gregson Pepperpot? Can't you find yourself a better hobby, such as electrocuting puppies or happy slapping old ladies?
So, Miss Pendulous Buzzroom, you were escaped from a moment.
And what a run around you gave us.
At least you got some well-needed exercise.
It did seem rather a waste of an episode.
And stop breaking
The fourth wall.
You're not Miranda Hart.
A female version of Oliver Hardy.
Perhaps. Whatever, you stand accused
of ripping us all.
in the gusset of
reality.
We're here to find you guilty.
It was an accident, you worshipful mutant gimp. I was defending my honour against Father Cassock's disgusting amorous advances.
That would sound more convincing if last week you weren't caught on video having a knee trembler down the...
You know, behind Lucy's in Blackpool,
With a 6'8" mustachioed transsexual
called Billy.
Laura
Pimpleby, we of the Pepperpot
Universal Benevolent Establishment,
or Pew for short, sentence you to be taken henceforth from this dingy courtroom
and to be shot.
The was conceived by Brian Hughes during a brief affair with a Chilean miner's wife, and starred Laura Pendlebury as Juliet Gregson, Terry Sedgwick as herself, Holly Jenkins as Michelle Harris, and 2 Pepperpots on loan from the Mary Stokes Little Orphans Hostel as David and Kath Gregson. The music, as always, was borrowed from Kevin McLeod's Dustbin, and the sound effects found in the drain next to the North Houston Hotel Fleetwood. Is this the end for Laura Pendlebury? Can she possibly survive a harsh judgment of the Tin Pot dictators? Find out in the next thrilling episode. Laura Pendlebury escapes by running upstairs and then builds a nuclear bomb from the motor of an injured Pepperpot and blows up the planet.
Has he gone? Good. He won't be needing this cushion there, will he?